All right, the bracket is here. The bracket is out. Now you know what you're going to be doing for the next 4 days nonstop, looking at every permutation. And if you want some help trying to find some upset picks or maybe some trendy teams to make a bit of a run, you're in the right place. So tune in, grab some popcorn, grab a snack, and let's lock in here.
All right, you heard Grant. So for what it's worth, Jackson is probably the second most knowledgeable out of us. I am the embodiment of a casual with this. I have probably looked at 6-7 TikTok videos on what to do here. So that's all I'm really riding with. And then Grant actually is really deep in the weeds on college basketball. So I'm very excited to hear his takes. Where should we start, guys? Should we just start top left corner here?
Yeah, let's just go down the left.
All right. I don't think there's anything I've seen that says, bam, Auburn is a bad pick. Like, they should basically be locks for the finals.
We can take them through the first round at least, just to get that going.
What do you think about this this first 4 game before that, though?
I've no intel, to be honest. I'm always curious whether the first 4 teams are happy to be in the first 4 because they have a game they can actually win first and kind of build up a little momentum. It's interesting because I feel like if you win your conference, you kind of want to get that experience playing against a 1 seed, but it's kind of cool to have a team at your level first to kind of get your feet wet a little bit and have a game you actually have a chance in. So I'm curious what the guys playing in the game, if they'd rather just be the 16 playing the 1 or have to win a play-in. But Auburn will win this game handily. So
all right, next one, a little bit more discussion. Louisville versus Creighton. Only bad thing I've seen is that Louisville has had a bunch of players who are new to the roster, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in the season, it's not as important, the kind of continuity. Like, you build up enough of that throughout the course of a season, going through ups and downs and things like that. I think Creighton will probably be a trendy pick here. They have had a run in them the last few years in the tournament. Ryan Kalkbrenner is still very good. He's still there. Elite shot blocker, rim protector. I'm going to take Louisville, though. I just think they're more well-rounded. I think the Big East is pretty weak this year. I don't see a ton of run coming from any of those teams, bar St. John's. But Louisville's great. Chucky Hepburn has been a great add. He's their starting point guard. He transferred from Wisconsin last year. I like Louisville here, but I'm open to any opinion. Kind of a toss-up.
We're going to need some dogs. So I am on the Creighton side.
I'm also going Creighton. I like the 3-point shooting. Louisville has definitely seemed to struggle with that, at least in the past. Kalkbrenner, like Grant said, Creighton has that March Madness mentality. I'm just going to go with the slight dogs in this one.
Well, we'll have plenty of dogs. Don't you worry. I'm just
So Michigan, UC San Diego. Grant is also a massive Michigan guy, the embodiment of Go Blue. I'm personally also with him on this because all I've seen is that Michigan is like a guarantee, so to speak, to be a first-round exit. And I just think it's one of the simpler processes of fading the typical chalk of these type of dogs. What do you say?
I think UC San Diego is the trendy 12 seed this year, which is a good thing in that they are getting that publicity, but I think it's also a situation where you don't see that team. It's never as easy for that team as you expect. I mean, you're seeing a ton of money come in on the UC San Diego spread and money line in this game. I just think it's a much harder matchup than you would think. Michigan's coming off of 3 straight wins in the Big Ten tournament, all of which over teams who are better than UC San Diego, or at least have played teams all season that are better than UC San Diego. UC San Diego's biggest win of the season was against Utah State. It was a solid program, but it's not competing with the likes of Wisconsin, Maryland, Purdue, that caliber of team. I also think Michigan, the way they're lined up, is just relatively unique. They start 2 7-footers who are both skilled, both hard to guard. It's just kind of a situation that most teams are not prepared for. So obviously UC San Diego will have 4 days or so now to get used to that. But I think the matchup nightmare of those 2 guys is going to be a tough out, especially for teams that only have a couple days to prepare. Like if Michigan wins on a Thursday and play on a Saturday, it's tough to prepare for that kind of lineup in just 2 days when you haven't seen it all year. I'm going to rock with Michigan. It all comes down to their guards. If their guards can play well, they can beat anyone, but the guards typically don't play well. So it'll all come down to that kind of. You'll know pretty quickly if you see some guards knock down jump shots that it's going to be a long day for whoever they're playing. But I'm going to take Michigan in this one. But
yeah, I also got Michigan.
All right, short, simple, sweet. Moving forward, Texas A&M versus Yale. I'm personally going with Texas A&M. I just have a very hard time backing an Ivy League school in this tournament, even though they did it last year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm just
they beat
not
Auburn last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to buy that back-to-back. That seems like something that could be quickly trendy. But curious to hear where you guys stand on this one.
I'm going with Yale. This is another one of my upsets. I'm packing a few decent ones in early here. Yeah, I mean, like you said, they were able to get it done last year. Yale is a really efficient scoring team, good ball movement. I don't know, they don't seem to get shaken too much by opposing teams' paces, so I kind of like that. Yeah, I think it's just a program that has the ability to do it. I'm going to go with them here against A&M. Grant, what do you think about that? Is that
so a lot of what I liked about the Yale team last year, which made them tough to guard, was Danny Wolf, who's now at Michigan. Mm-hmm. He's been their best player this year, and he was a big part of why Yale was successful last year, just because you have a 7-footer with range who can dribble, really good passer, kind of a tough nightmare matchup. I will say for Yale, John Poulikaitis is I think he's a senior by now. But he had huge games in the tournament last year, was a big part of the reason why they won that first round matchup. If he's on, they're tough to stop, but Texas A&M's defense has been so locked down all year. It just feels like they have the superior athletes to keep this one at bay and kind of just win a scrappy game if it gets that way, or can kind of pull ahead if given the opportunity. So I'm going to rock with A&M.
There's also, you never really want to look at these types of trends too much when you're making a bracket, but there's that whole 13-4 seed thing.
Oh, yeah. I think I may have faded that entirely this year, but we'll see. All right, next one, Ole Miss, San Diego State versus UNC. On my personal bracket, I think that UNC not only wins the game to get in here, I think they actually beat Hotty Toddy Ole Miss over here. What say you guys on this one?
I think either of those two teams have the potential to beat Ole Miss too. Ole Miss, if they're shooting the ball well, which is true about most of these teams in the tournament, to be honest, but they could be a tough out. But I think either of those teams pose a different threat to Ole Miss. San Diego State plays super slow; they always have, so they'll limit the amount of possessions, kind of play a close game. So I think either of those teams is live. So I'm happy to just click the SDSU/UNC and rock with it either way.
For me, this one's a little bit more dependent on the winner of the first game. I think I'm probably rocking with the SDSU side of things if it comes down to that. I think if it's UNC, I'd be a little bit less inclined to press that button.
All right. So that regardless advances based off how we're going about this. On to the next one, Iowa State versus Lipscomb. I saw some guy on TikTok say that Lipscomb was his stand or some shit. That just made me immediately be like, okay, Iowa State. So that's what I'm going with here. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I mean, I think Iowa State wins this one, but arguably their best player is out for the whole tournament, which is not ideal. Got hurt in the Big 12 tournament, and then Sneaky waited to announce that he was going to miss the whole tournament until after they were seeded. They probably could have been moved to a 4 or something if that information was made public prior, but it was not, which was smart by them. But he's going to miss the whole tournament, which isn't ideal. Obviously, still have the guys to get it done, but I think their ceiling isn't quite as high as it was before. But I think they get past this one.
Yeah, definitely agree here. I don't know a ton about this Lipscomb team, but I know that Iowa State can have a pretty balanced attack, even with missing a few people. Yeah, I'm just going to go with Iowa State here.
Yeah, I just docked them down on a few spots further down my bracket. I did not know their guy was out for the whole entire tourney. That definitely sucks for the future. Marquette versus New Mexico. I'm going with the Marquette side. Saw a lot of positive little things about them and Jimmy Butler era. So what say you guys?
I love New Mexico, to be honest.
I'm going New Mexico.
I think it's a nightmare matchup for Marquette as well. I think New Mexico has the athletes to keep up with Marquette and two good perimeter defenders that you can kind of throw on Cam Jones. If you can stop Cam Jones, you can beat Marquette is basically how it's gone this year. And even in games where he's had 30, they've still been outclassed elsewhere. They just don't have enough guys that can put the ball in the basket outside of him. It's kind of just piecing together possessions. New Mexico has two of the best players from the Mountain West Conference this year in Nelly Jr. Joseph and Donovan Dent. Donovan Dent is definitely a guard to keep your eye on. He averaged over 20 points, 6 assists, shot the ball efficiently too. And this New Mexico team was a trendy pick last year as well. They were hot to close out the season. I think they have some unfinished business because things didn't go as great as I think they hoped to last year. So rocking with New Mexico.
Yeah, I said before brackets were released that I'm going to be fading Marquette at least at some point in the bracket, and I'm happy they got the New Mexico drawing for me to do so in the first round. I just haven't been impressed. They've been pretty inconsistent, especially when playing ranked teams. So I'm going to go with New Mexico, just like Grant, plus all the reasons he stated.
All right. On to the next one, Michigan State versus Bryant, with my biggest upset of the tournament. Bryant upsetting Michigan State. Bookwood Trent is going to be parlaying the top 8 teams. If I have to pick one, this is what it's going to be. All right. So what should we like about Michigan State, or am I alone on Bryant here? Probably.
So Michigan State started this season unranked, didn't have a ton of high expectations. But the way they've played the last month or two has been awesome to watch. They have been shooting the ball a lot better. They were shooting like 30% from 3 in the first half of the season, and that kind of limited their ceiling a bit. But all those same guys have now picked up their percentages. They've seen the ball go in, and it's kind of carried over game on game. They played typical Michigan State basketball too, gritty, diving for loose balls. Good defense. They're going to be locked in for all 30 seconds of a shot clock. I think they can win any type of game. So I like Michigan State in this one because they're not really the type of team that relies on playing a certain way. You usually see the upsets are like a team like Zach Edey's Purdue, where they're so reliant on giving one guy the ball. And if it's not falling there, they are hard to kind of adjust off of that. Whereas Michigan State, if the shots aren't going in, will just clamp on defense and kind of just win a gritty one if that's what this game calls for. So, I like the versatility there. I don't see this as a upset spot, but you never know. They did lose as a number 2 seed back in 2016, so it's possible.
Yeah, I got to pick your battles. This isn't one of mine. Go Michigan State.
So we move to Michigan State. All right, moving downwards. I think this is just a click, right?
Yeah,
I don't have Norfolk yet.
Rocket.
Good. UConn versus Oklahoma. I feel like Oklahoma is a very just popular pick, but I could be wrong. So I went with Dan Hurley for the coaching experience, but is that just me being too casual with it? I don't know.
No, I'm down for that. I think UConn, I'm not sure what the actual spread is in this game. I think UConn's probably a few point favorite. I think UConn probably gets it done. I do think in brackets, though, UConn is going to get a crazy spread of picks just because a lot of the casuals are going to be like, oh, this team won the last 2 years and they're an 8 seed. Like, yeah, they'll beat the 9 seed. Like, I just think you'll see a lot of just, oh, UConn, I'm going to click that one. So I think it's worth going a little deeper potentially because I think you could get some value in whatever bracket pool you're in by taking Oklahoma, because I think there's going to be a ton of people on the UConn side of things. Oklahoma started off the season super hot. They were playing great ball. They started out undefeated throughout non-conference play. The SEC has been great, so obviously they've taken some licks in conference play, which is why they're now sitting at a 9 seed versus what they could have been prior. But Jeremiah Fears is a great prospect. Everything kind of runs through him. If he's knocking down shots, they're playing well. In the SEC tournament, almost came from behind and beat Kentucky. He stole the ball twice on inbound plays, went up for layups. He is a bit of an X factor. So I think if he's playing well, they're very live. I would probably take UConn, but I think it's closer to 50-50 than people would think. So you can get a little value if you rock with Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm also on the UConn side of things here.
All right, we're rocking with the 8th seed. Memphis versus Colorado State. I took Colorado State in my personal one. What should we be looking at here?
I'm also on Colorado State. Wells, I think there are a couple important injuries in the guard department on the Memphis team that could potentially affect their play. Colorado State, that's the main reason I kind of like it as one of the 5-13 upsets. What do you think, Grant?
Yeah, Tyrese Hunter's probably not going to play, at least in the first game. I'm not sure what the injury situation is looking like after that, but he's their point guard. Definitely kind of calms things down. Memphis always has great athletes, so you don't really have to worry about that. PJ Haggerty is as good of a player as you'll find in the country. Elite production, but can be a little inconsistent. So if shots aren't falling, I can see a path for Colorado State. Dane Danger is also a big for Memphis, who has had a great season, can pose a bit of a matchup nightmare there. But Colorado State has Nick Clifford, who has had an unreal season, kind of put the team on his back to get to this point, was great throughout the Mountain West tournament and played well last year too. Colorado State won the play-in game last year against Virginia. He was great, so he's kind of used to this moment. I'm gonna trust you guys as well. It does feel a little square though when you're seeing a 12 seed as a 3-point favorite in the game. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you're going to see a lot of people on this side, but I'm rocking with it as well.
All right, cool. On to the next one, Maryland Grand Canyon. I just went with Maryland. I don't really have any other reasoning. I didn't see anything crazy. They just looked like they were supposed to be a good team.
I also went with Maryland. I thought they've looked pretty good towards the back half of things here. They just had a pretty convincing win against Illinois, I believe it was, where they just looked good in that one. So, I mean, I'm based in Maryland. Going to be fun rooting on this squad at least for a couple rounds. So I pushed them through here.
I took GCU, but I'm outnumbered here, so that's
damn.
Fine. But they aren't your typical small program. They're a team with a huge NIL budget. They're paying elite athletes to come there. Pretty loaded roster. Will have the athletes to keep up with pretty much anyone. You saw more or less the same team. You had a senior graduate last year who was kind of the heart of the defense. But other than that, this team is very similar to the team that beat St. Mary's in the first round last year and almost should have beaten Alabama in the second round as well. So this team has more experience than you would think, considering their kind of small town program. Maryland thrives on kind of their young players. Derek Queen is a freshman. So even though they're the bigger program, the Grand Canyon squad probably has more tournament experience, which is something worth noting. Tyon Grant Foster is a complete X factor. If you look up this guy, he looks exactly like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's a 6'8" guard who was like a consensus 5-star recruit, had some injury issues, I think had a heart problem, has transferred a couple times, but he ended up at GCU. He's as talented of a player as you can find. He's kind of a demigod. He's like a 6'8", point forward, good jump shot. He took over games last year in the tournament for them. So I'm going to rock with Grand Canyon, but I think Maryland also is super talented. They've looked great to close the season. So
I'm not going to lie, Grant kind of sold me there. I started hearing Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 6'8" guard, ridiculous amount of tournament experience.
Google Tyon, Tyon, Grant Foster.
All right.
They might be brothers.
All right. If they look that identical, I think I'll switch my pick. Tyon Grant Foster. Let's see. A picture for glasses does not help.
I have a here. I'll share.
I'm not convinced that these are different people. So, all right, Grant, I'll give you that one.
His dog. He struggled with some. I think he was academically ineligible for their first 10 games of the season. Has kind of been piecing it together since then. He's kind of a head case, it would appear, but super talented guy. So
good to know. All right. Next one. I've seen so many bad metrics about Drake, and so many people love them. I don't get it. Usually that's not a common trend of pairing those things together. So I'm going with Missouri personally. Where do you guys stand on this one?
I'm Missouri as well on this one.
I agree. I think Drake's going to be a super trendy pick too. I think you'll see like more than half the brackets or so pick Drake. They've been dominant in conference all season, but Missouri's kind of built up a resume after going through the SEC all year. So I'm going to trust Missouri as well.
Sounds good. All right, Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. Do we really have to discuss
I got
this?
Tech.
Yeah, I got Tech.
Okay, good. We're all on Tech. Kansas, what the hell? Kansas versus Arkansas. Yeah, preseason opener. There was like basically a good selling point that I saw that was basically just like, okay, one of Gonzaga or Kansas is probably going to go a lot farther in this tournament than you would expect them to. So I really like taking Kansas here because I think a lot of people are going to be on the Arkansas side. But that could just be me. What say you guys?
I'm down for Kansas.
Yeah, I'm also on the Kansas side of things.
If Arkansas was fully healthy, I think they'd have a good chance, but that's not the situation we're in currently. So,
Coach Cal.
All right. Seeing a bunch of this guy on TikTok and various social medias because they're always just putting clips of him up everywhere. I think St. John's is the easy click here, but is there a reason we should like Omaha?
Good coaching. But
St. John's.
Yeah, St. John's.
All right. Moving on up, back up to the top, Duke American. So one thing I do have a question about, what is the deal with Cooper Flagg's injury? Is it actually something to be worried about for the tournament? Is it something that like...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any chance he's going to be like 100% come tournament time, but I think he'll play. I think he'll miss this game if I had to guess, and probably play on Sunday or Saturday, whenever the next matchup is. I think he'll be able to play and he'll still be effective. It'll probably take some Toradol shots or some sort of steroid injection kind of situation just to get him to be able to play through the pain. I don't think he's like at a ton of risk of like worsening the injury or getting re-injured or anything, but it's more just like pain tolerance. So I think he should be able to play, but I think just to be safe, they probably rest him in round 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
On to the next one, because that one requires a little bit more focus. Mississippi State versus Baylor. I chose the Baylor side because I need dogs, and I saw some fun, positive metrics about them, but that's really all I got. What say you guys?
I got M State. Curious to hear where Grant's at on this one.
Yeah, Mississippi State as well.
All right, Mississippi State advances. Oregon versus Liberty. This is where I got a little weird in my bracket. I saw somebody say that Liberty can get hot from 3.
They certainly can. If they are, it's a long day for whoever they're playing, but Oregon plays good perimeter defense. I'm a big fan of Oregon. I think they have a bit of a run in them. I think they always get slept on in March Madness. They're a team that sneaky puts together runs regardless of what team they have. You saw last year, they had a team that was relatively unsuccessful throughout the Pac-12 season, and then you just have a couple players get hot, and they had a dude who's averaging like 40 points in March who propelled them through a couple rounds. I think this team is always slept on and should be brought into discussions as teams that are always good in March. I think that they do a great job of preparing themselves for games like this. So personally on the Oregon side of things.
Yeah, you know me, I'm not fading the Ducks as such a big favorite.
Makes sense. All right. Arizona versus Akron. I feel like Akron is getting a little bit of hype for the popular dog section. I'm on the Arizona side. What say you guys?
I'm rocking with Akron. I think Arizona has high highs for sure, but they also have the potential to just have a disaster in them. Caleb Love is as volatile of a player as you'll find. He could give you 30 or he could shoot 2 of 18. And kind of shoot you out of a game. And if he's missing, he's still going to shoot. He's not just going to be like, it's not my night. Let's facilitate a little bit. He's going to get them up still. Arizona did close the season well on a pretty good run of things. They did lose to Houston in the Big 12 championship, but they made it there, beating some pretty good teams along the way, including Texas Tech. They beat Kansas as well. So they are kind of hot right now. If you want to ride the hot hand, I wouldn't mind it. I just think this is a spot for a bit of an upset pick.
Fair enough.
I'm going with Zona. Unfortunately, we can't push through Grant's upset. But but two fast-paced teams. Arizona could be a problem for them just because they've been giving up a ton of points recently. But I think ultimately the size is going to be a big factor on the boards. Akron's kind of lacking that. I think it's going to be a good game, super high scoring, and if Akron can get hot from three, they could definitely do it. But you got to pick your battles. This wasn't, unfortunately, one of the ones I picked.
Well, the next one is a battle that I did choose. VCU over BYU. I want to say somebody pointed out that there was a theoretical matchup discrepancy. Like one team is like very turnover prone, where the other is like very good with turnover ratio or something like that. Let me know if there's any validity to that or what else we should kind of know here. But I am currently on the VCU side.
Yeah, I mean they're a team that can be very up and down. They rely on hitting a ton of threes. Their offense is super efficient. They're like a top 5 or 10 Ken Pom offense. Defense not as great. But if the shots aren't falling, pretty much anyone can hang around with them. They don't have a ton of great like interior presence. So if you can kind of bully them inside and slow down the game, there's an opportunity to beat them. They've been really hot coming into this game, but I think I'm going to go with the U Wells. You just kind of have to rely on the missing jump shots, which is tough. If they're making them, they won't lose, but there's always an opportunity where things just aren't falling, and if they're not falling, VCU has more than a great chance. So I
was not on the VCU side of things, but I love the analysis there.
I'll say. Grant, you sure you don't want to go with the BYU pick? We reckon with VCU here?
Yeah, I'll take VCU.
All right. Wisconsin versus Montana. What should we know here? I just clicked Wisconsin because I don't think we should really be looking into Montana, but maybe I'm overlooking things.
We'll touch on Wisconsin in the second round, I think. I'm fine just clicking it.
Yeah, I'm sending them through decently far.
All right, good to know. Good to know. St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt seems to be becoming a more and more trendy dog. Have seen some good analytics behind their team, but also seen some like things that make me questionable. What stand you guys? I'm honestly 50-50. I'll probably decide once I hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, a friend of mine plays for Vanderbilt, so I will probably end up picking them just because. But I do think St. Mary's probably wins this game. I think it's a completely different style of basketball than what Vanderbilt has played all season. St. Mary's is really going to slow down the game, grind it out. Not super athletic, but is going to play like methodical offense, passing it around, finding the right holes, and kind of just, kind of playing dink and dunk, find your spots, pick them, play a slower game. And I think St. Mary's probably grinds this one out. The way to beat St. Mary's, if you play a different style, is just to out-athlete them and throw like super quick guards and like switchable bigs and that kind of thing. And Vanderbilt doesn't quite have that this year. I took GCU against St. Mary's last year, and GCU had those kind of athletes and stuff. Vanderbilt has good scores, good offense, but I don't think they have those like complete elite athletes that is how you beat up on a team like this. So I think St. Mary's probably grinds this one out.
Yeah, I'm going St. Mary's as well. The Gales have pretty consistent tournament experience at this point. They are good at controlling pace. That's kind of been that's always been their key to victory in the tournament. Really good defense. Probably have an edge on the boards as well. So yeah, I'm going to lean towards the Gales as well.
All right. Well, I pretty much make this pick every single year, but I'm probably going to be taking a shot on Bama to win it all once again. So classic me. So I'm on the Bama side. Want to hear where you guys are. Let's start off with Jackson here, and then like Grant be the decider.
I think he has Robert Morris.
I have Robert Morris in this one. This is going to be my big whoa, that was crazy upset of the tournament. Robert Morris is just an aggressive team that I think can match up to the pace of Alabama on the right day. It's all going to come down to whether they can like keep possession of the ball, prevent turnovers, keep their perimeter shooting up. And Robert Morris has been a pretty good team to control tempo, which Bama, that's one thing that Bama can struggle with if they're having an off night. So this is my big boy buster.
Grant, you got us on the tie here. Where do we lean?
I'm taking Bama.
Yeah.
I think Robert Morris doesn't play a ton of players too. They have a short rotation, which can be good at times, but when Bama's playing at the pace they're capable of playing at, it's going to be tough for guys to play as many minutes as they have been recently. I think they kind of get run off the floor. You do see situations now where there's going to be a ton of TV timeouts and things like that. So I guess guys can kind of rejuvenate a little bit. But they also have won, I think, 15 of their last 16 games or something like that. They've been hot in conference play. Not a good conference, but still worth noting. I just think the pace can be a little too much, and you see guys get gassed a little bit. I think if you want a line, take their first half spread maybe. And then I think this one probably balloons. Like you could see this be like a 4-point game at half or something, and then it ends up being 20 plus or something just because they run out of gas a little bit. But I think this could stay tight.
I think that's sharp, that first half spread call out.
All right. I think we're just all clicking the firsts, correct?
Yeah.
Gonzaga versus Georgia. Kansas and Gonzaga are the two teams I'm essentially taking stands on this year. So I'm rocking with Zags. I will note the fact that we have 1-9 seed. Interesting for us. So I'm kind of curious to hear where you guys are at on this one.
I'm
like
also on the
Gonzaga.
Zags with you.
All right. So we're all on Zags.
We could touch on them in the next round, yeah.
All right. Clemson, McNeese. I just think it's going to be a massive article coming out just being like, this is why you don't sign NIL deals before the tournament start or something along those lines.
The manager.
The manager is clearly like too much hype behind the guy. But perhaps I am not familiar enough with their game. So walk us through what side we should be on. As you can tell, I'm already on the Clemson side.
I'm on Clemson too, so I'll let Grant cover
This guy, that Amir has like March written all over him. It feels like people are gonna be upset. He's gonna walk out into this game playing like Kodak in the speakers, walking into a big gym. Teams all hyped to get into the tournament and play in a big arena, and then they just lose by 30 points. So I just feel like it's set up for like this story arc of wow, they win the first round game and he's gonna be in the one shining moment video at the end or whatever, but I think they'd lose as well.
Clemson has also looked like really convincing lately, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, they lost earlier than expected in the ACC tournament, but prior to that, yeah. The ACC, it's hard to know what the ACC is at this point. There's not a lot of consistency down the board, but they did beat Duke. They were Duke's only conference loss this year. So,
all right. Purdue versus High Point. I'm rocking with Purdue just because I feel like they're going to be a popular fade. But based off of your expressions, I feel like I might be alone on this one.
I'm all in on High Point, to be honest.
So
this is my favorite pick of the tournament, I think.
All right.
That could go down in disaster, but I'm a big fan of High Point. You've seen the line move like 2 points plus just in the last day since this has come out. High Point hasn't beaten or played a ton of super high quality teams, but they can shoot the ball really well. They have talented guards who are experienced kind of veterans of the program, which is huge in March. You usually see games when they're close and tight. The game kind of goes through the guards and their decision making. They don't turn the ball over a ton, and they can kind of create their own offense off of turnovers. And they have a bunch of dudes that come off the bench and play well as well. So they can kind of go 5 on, 5 off. You'll see a situation like how the Pacers play or something where you'll just see fresh legs coming in that are more or less similar to the guys that were playing ahead of them and kind of switch things up and stay fresh. So they'll be pressing a lot and kind of just keeping high energy. I like High Point in this one, but
yeah, I pretty much just echoing everything Grant says. They're super aggressive on D, super high energy, definitely have the potential to disrupt the flow of this Purdue team, I think.
All right. On to the next one, Illinois versus Texas/Xavier. I'm just rocking with the kind of similar theory to the UNC thing. I'm going on the opposite side of Illinois here. Not the biggest seller of Illinois, but walk us through what side we should be on here. What one are you guys on?
I'm going to take Illinois. I just think they have the top end talent to get through here. Texas is playing good basketball right now. Went on a little bit of a run in the conference tournament. They won at least a game, which kind of is the reason they got into the tournament in the first place. Xavier has played well too. They're kind of on a tear. So I think either of these teams could pose a threat. I'm going to wait to see who wins and then kind of how they win in order to make a pick in this one. But I think it could really go either way.
Yeah, this is kind of the same as the UNC thing, where I'm pretty sure I'm going to wait to make this decision. I think I'd be more inclined to make the click with the Xavier, making it past Texas, but going to go with Illinois for now.
All right, so we're clicking in Illinois through.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right, Kentucky versus Troy. I don't think they mess up twice, if that makes sense.
Agreed.
I don't have Troy.
All right. UCLA versus Utah State. I took Utah State here, just because I needed a dog. You guys cool with this one?
Yeah, it's fine.
Utah State.
I'm not sold by UCLA whatsoever. They kind of snuck into the tournament. I thought they should have been lower than a 7 seed, to be completely honest. But they managed to finesse that. I don't think this is a particularly great UCLA team. Plenty of the Big Ten teams went into LA and took care of business and handled things through pretty much all season. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest believer.
All right, next one, Tennessee, Wofford. Are we just clicking this one as well?
Yeah, that's fine.
Team Tennessee.
Perfect. All right, and the next round, Auburn, Creighton. Is this really just another one where we kind of point and click?
I'm down.
I'm gonna take Auburn. Yeah.
All right, Michigan, Texas A&M. Popular fade of Michigan makes me kind of want to ride them one more round, just because the people wouldn't expect it. But what say you guys on this one?
Considering my technical bracket has Yale through, I'm going Michigan through against Auburn as well.
Yeah, I think Michigan's gonna be a tough out on the back end of these like quick turnaround games. You saw in the Big Ten tournament how they were able to have a ton of success. Teams are not able to really adjust to the way Michigan plays on short notice. Texas A&M though does play great defense. One of the best defensive teams in the country. The offense can be a little stagnant at times, but they're a great team. I think this game could be super close, and probably will be super close. Michigan has just had the experience of winning close games all year. They haven't really blown anyone out in the last few months. They've won all their games by 1 to 7 or 8 points. So I think you can trust them to execute well down the stretch. So
all right.
Rock with
on
that.
The next one, we got San Diego State or UNC, whichever team that makes it through, versus Iowa State, which, as I learned on this, Iowa State no longer has their best player or whatever. I feel like this is kind of a more popular spot, but like I think we could fade them here. So I'll probably lean more towards the San Diego State UNC side. But what say you guys?
Yeah, I'm totally there with you. Like I said, if it's SDSU, I have a little bit less faith in UNC. But I think considering that injury situation with Iowa State, SDSU has been kind of a sneaky team in the tournament in the past few years. So,
yeah, it's fine with me.
All right. On to the next one, New Mexico versus Michigan State. You guys sounded pretty confident, if I remember correctly, on New Mexico, correct?
Yeah, I like them to win that game. I think the way Michigan State play, they've been so much better when the guard's been knocking down jump shots, which is great and all, but it does mean that there's possibility for upset when those shots aren't going in. And they could look like the team that wasn't as good to begin this year. And I think New Mexico plays the kind of like swarming defense that you could see kind of throw some shot makers off a little bit. I'm going to take Michigan State, but I think this is a close one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Michigan State as well. I was more like my take in the first round was more just fading Marquette than anything.
Makes sense. All right. On to the next one, Florida, UConn. If I remember correctly, Florida just got like their best player back like not too long ago, or something like that.
They're pretty much fully healthy, yeah.
Yeah, I think
we can touch on them in a sec, but I'm gonna just take Florida now. We'll save the analysis for when it matters.
Cool. Gotcha. All right, Colorado State, Grand Canyon. It sounded like Grant was really sold on GCU. Are we pushing them through here?
Yeah, I'll push with Grant's confidence as well in this matchup.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I think if they play Memphis, it's better for GCU than it would be playing Colorado State, because Colorado State is kind of more of a pace switcher that can kind of throw GCU off their game. Whereas if it's Memphis, it's going to be athletes versus athletes, and Grand Canyon has succeeded in those type of spots in the past. So with this as the matchup, Colorado State I think is super live, but yeah, I'm fine throwing Grand Canyon through.
What about Maryland versus Colorado State? Would you be?
I would take Maryland in that situation.
Yeah, I was going to
because I just think their athletes are superior to the Colorado State ones, and you can kind of just survive off that. But
yeah,
that's gonna be an interesting little triangle there. There's a lot of little permutations that I think could go awry.
All right, Missouri versus Texas Tech. Yeah, I just faded Drake in the first round. Should that mean we should just click Texas Tech here, or how does this one work?
I like Texas Tech. They have like 4 or 5 guys that can score the ball really well. JT Toppin has been great, especially in the last month or so. He's been arguably the nation's best scorer in that sample size. But even if he's off, they have other guys and good guards that can put the ball in the basket. I think they're a pretty versatile team. Good defense, can play those kind of grinded out games as well. A few big wins on the season as well. I like trusting Texas Tech here for sure.
Yeah, give me Tech.
All right. Yeah, I'm taking Kansas over St. John's here. My logic is that you're not going to find a single person that isn't going to be obsessed with St. John's. But Kansas has plenty of just things that are really strong for them. That's really all I got. Is just trying to find the wow factor in this round. Because when I look at the other 2 seeds that in theory would get here, it's like you can make a case for St. Mary's probably, in New Mexico maybe, but Kansas, they were preseason number 1 or something like that. And typically those teams do tend to be forgotten about and surprise people in March.
Yeah, I'm going to take St. John's. The defense is as probably the best in the country, or at least one of the best in the country. Offensive efficiency leaves a bit to be desired, but Kansas's offense has looked pretty stagnant as of late. So I think if they can just kind of limit the amount of possessions in this game, I think they should win pretty handily. You saw them against Marquette just a couple days ago in the Big East tournament. Marquette was playing well. St. John's decided to just lock in on defense and win on like an 18-2 run over 8 minutes, just completely clamped down on defense. That's what they're capable of. They are great at switching on defense. You'll see the whole team pretty much flying around on defense, making all the right switches. It's very rare that you see a team get off a wide open jump shot against them just because of how solid their rotations are and kind of the IQ of their defense. So in a game where Kansas lacks like a true X factor in this one, I'm going to take St. John's.
Yeah, I also pushed St. John's through. I'll just ditto the reasoning Grant gave.
All right, Duke versus Mississippi State. We're imagining Cooper Flag is back. Honestly, the only way I think that this type of injury would really suck for him is if it's going to be high tempo. So I personally think we should push him through. But what say you guys?
Agreed. Yeah, you can push him.
Cool with pushing.
All right. Oregon, Arizona. I think we're going to end up clicking Oregon here just because it's they're undervalued, and yeah, I think the reason can really be that simple.
I'm down for that.
BCU, Wisconsin. Are we expecting a shakeup here, or what's the word?
It's kind of a fun one. Go up for a sec. Do we have a? Yes, we don't have a true. I'm fine. I'm down to take VCU as a little upset shout here. I think they have the ability to kind of shake things up in this one. Wisconsin, everything runs through John Tonje. He's a transfer in this year. He scored the ball at an elite level. Kind of the head of the snake there for most things Wisconsin is trying to get done. And I feel like if VCU gets through BYU, it'll mean that they're set up to defend guards pretty well because that's a lot of what BYU does well. So I think you can roll over a similar game plan to the first game, which is helpful given there's only a 2-day turnaround. And I think VCU could be posed for another upset here.
I could see it. I personally have Wisconsin going through, but I think in the event that it is a VCU Wisconsin game, it could be a really tight, fun one. So I'm not mad about that at all. If Wells wants to go
VCU creates a ton of turnovers, so that can be huge in March. You can see big swings just based on how often they steal the ball and create kind of matchup inconsistencies. You kind of keep guys uncomfortable, and they rebound the ball really well on the offensive glass. So I think it's a good shout.
Trying to see like what other theoretical like big upset is occurring during this time. Because like I personally have liked it to have been Kansas, but I'm alone on that.
I see. I'm eyeing down one. We'll get there.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of fine pushing Wisconsin through, just because it's like I don't like pushing through like this, if that makes sense.
I mean, if you want, I'm Wisconsin. Grant's
VCU, which is
so.
How about this? I'll see what I actually put down in my own bracket. All right, I went with Wisconsin in my own bracket, so the casualness will push
Rock
through.
with it.
Word.
All right. St. Mary's, Bama. I have Bama winning in so many brackets. I'm not gonna lie.
They get past this one for sure.
Gotta push them.
Houston Zags. I
have Gonzaga. I'll just rip off the Band-Aid.
All right, I have Houston, but you guys let me know.
All right, we flipped on this one, so we'll go with this one. How about that? I think that's fair.
Oh yeah,
Gonzaga through.
Well, 2-1, fair and square.
Yeah, fair and square as well.
I mean, they have a variety of guys that can score the basketball. Ken Palm loves this team offensively and defensively. Finally kind of washed away some of those demons throughout the season. They lost to St. Mary's twice in the regular season, did beat them in the conference championship. They just kind of played different styles. Gonzaga's more adept to facing a team like a Houston or a more high major team than they are a St. Mary's, just because of what St. Mary's wants to do offensively. Ryan Nembhard is as trustworthy of a guard as you can find. Doesn't really turn the ball over. Unreal passer, probably the best passer in the country. Has had a ton of experience in March, dating back to his time at Florida before, and then he's been at Gonzaga for a couple of years here now. Or no, he's at Creighton. He's at Creighton. His brother was at Florida. This is Andrew Nembhard's brother, by the way. But yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over whatsoever, which is huge in March. You can see especially teams like Houston that are really good defensively, that thrive on kind of pressuring opposing point guards. And I think he's going to be just fine at kind of conducting this offense. And you've guys like Graham Ike who can bang in the paint with some of Houston's bigs, plenty of shooters surrounding both of these guys. And Gonzaga is one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. Khalif Battle in particular is the best free throw shooter in the country. So if you get in a spot in a close game where you just need to trust a guy to make free throws, you give him the ball. He's shooting it at 95, 96% right now. So a guy you can absolutely trust, and as a rotational guy. He's not just some dude off the bench. He's their starting two guard at the moment. So I like that advantage.
I think you might have just sold me with that one, just like Wells got sold on GCU.
All right, Clemson, High Point. I have a feeling that Grant's going to try to push High Point through here. I wouldn't be surprised if Jackson does too. So am I already outnumbered 2-1 on this, or what way are we swinging?
I pushed Clemson through, honestly.
Same. You did too? Okay.
I liked High Point a lot, just more so based on how they would play Purdue than it was them being particularly amazing in general. I just kind of liked that matchup. So,
all right, makes sense. Moving on, we have Illinois. Illinois versus Kentucky. I feel like a lot of people are going to want to click off of Kentucky because of just recency bias of how they've done in the earlier rounds. So I'm personally pushing Kentucky through. What say you guys?
Same.
Yeah, I also had Kentucky going through there.
Perfect. All right, Utah State, Tennessee. Are we expecting chaos?
I'm not personally.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the Vols.
All right, we will take the Vols to make another step forward. Auburn versus Michigan. I just don't know if we can push Michigan any further. What say you?
No, I agree. I think this is where it ends.
I'm big on Auburn for sure. They're my.
All right. UNC versus Michigan State. If you're going by Gordon Palm, UNC is way up there. But it depends on what metrics you guys want to follow. Are we taking down a 2 seed finally, or are we keeping them alive?
I got Michigan State.
Michigan State?
Personally, but
what say you, Jackson?
I also have Michigan State.
All right, they stay alive. Florida Grand Canyon. The
Crazy.
Absolutely.
Give me
wild.
Florida. Well, it's time to end this nonsense.
Okay, sounds good. Texas Tech versus St. John's. What are we expecting here? Does coaching prove through, or?
So I think this is the spot where St. John's lack of offense finally kind of bites them. Texas Tech, also a good defensive team, but just has more options to get it done offensively. If St. John's is making threes and stuff, they can obviously beat anyone because of the defense. But I think Texas Tech just has more ways to beat you, more guys that can just kind of take over games, which is huge in March. So I'm gonna be rocking with Texas Tech in this one.
Love it. Also have Tech.
All right, Tech moves forward. All right, back on up here. Duke versus Oregon. Is this the spot where they fall? Like, to me, it genuinely is about tempo for the Cooper Flag thing. Because I've also looked, like, the first thing I did, I was like, how many players are, like, getting drafted in the top 10? And I saw so many Duke guys up there, and it wasn't just Flag.
Yeah.
Obviously, Flag is great. I think this Duke team does a lot more things well outside of Flag, too, than people are kind of giving them credit. He's obviously a big reason of why they are where they are, but I think the rest of the roster is pretty well constructed as well and have a ton of guys that can just take over games and give you big moments. They shoot threes incredibly well. If you've watched Duke this year, you'll see random bench players come in, give you 3 threes in a row, and just get pulled after that just because they have so many guys that can do it. Isaiah Evans is a guy to keep an eye on. He has the potential to be a lottery pick this year, and he hasn't started at all for Duke. Freshman, super well regarded, but just an absolute sniper. Can take him off the dribble. Con Knippel's another guy as well who you can trust to make free throws, make shots down the stretch. You guys are not familiar with Con Knippel?
I just can't wait for, like, some announcer to go, Knippel, bang!
You will.
I
he'll be a top 10 pick this year, likely.
That guy in high school, Noah.
Yep.
I can't even say his name. But
Yep.
Wells, you familiar with that guy?
We'll just move Duke forward. Wisconsin versus Bama. As you guys know, I have Bama going forward in a lot of brackets to the finals. Are we cool moving Bama through here, or is Wisco turning my brackets upside down?
Yeah, I don't have a good say here because I had Bama losing to Robert Morris, so I have Wisco going through against Duke in the next round. But
yeah. So personally, I think Alabama, the high end ceiling of theirs can beat anyone, but on their day they could also get upset for sure. Wisconsin is the best free throw shooting team in the country. We talked about Gonzaga earlier. Wisconsin is the best top to bottom. So in close games, that's a huge advantage to have. I think I'll go with Alabama, Wells, but could genuinely go either way.
Moving forward, we have Zaga versus Clemson. Are we fading? What are we doing at this point?
I'm going to take Gonzaga.
Whoo.
What do you say,
Gonzaga?
I was going to lean towards the Clemson side of things if it were in this matchup, but
if I can't have Kansas, I'm taking Gonzaga.
It's more just an upside swing than anything. Like, I think if they can beat Houston, it means that we were right about what this team's capable of, and I don't see Clemson stopping them. I think you'll either see them go out early and kind of just we bought a little too much stock, or they're for real and they are capable of hanging with these type of teams. So,
all right, Kentucky versus Tennessee. So I'm more interested in the Tennessee side, not because I don't think that Kentucky is a great program. I just think that, like, roster turnover is like a real thing and does not help the further you get in. But perhaps it's counterintuitive. Wouldn't be surprised. So what side should I be on here? I'm starting off on Tennessee for what it's worth. Jackson, Grant be the deciders here.
Same.
Yeah, I like Tennessee as well. Chaz Lanier, great transfer guard from North Florida. He's had a great season. Tennessee's done a great job recruiting those transfer guards in the past. You saw Dalton Connect do more of the same last year, and they've kind of just repeated their success and found another transfer. And yeah, I think Kentucky is a great team. They just aren't healthy. just yet, and they won't be this tournament. Two of their big rotation guys and arguably their best player are out for probably the tournament, if not maybe just the first couple games. Who knows? But either way, they're working through injuries and have been for a while. They did a great job turning around the program, though. Obviously, had like one guy on the roster from last year, and they did a great job piecing it together and finding the right guys. I just think it runs out right now. One thing to keep an eye on, if Otega Owe is shooting the ball well for Kentucky to start, and they get through the first couple rounds and he's playing well, he thrives on confidence. If he's playing well, they're going to be a tough team to beat just because he's capable of giving you 30 on any occasion. He's a transfer from Oklahoma, hit 2 buzzer beaters to beat Oklahoma this year, the team he transferred from. So kind of just that dog mentality. If you're pissing him off, he's going to put his head down and tell you how he's feeling too. So a fun guy to keep an eye on for Kentucky, but if he's playing well, they're tough to beat. So just keep an eye on that.
That does sound like fun. Auburn versus Michigan State, though. Are we just clicking through Auburn one more time, or are we flipping to the dog?
I'm going with Auburn. Grant, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree.
All right. Moving down, Florida, Texas Tech. Are we moving through another 1 seed, or are we taking a shot on Tech?
I'm a big Florida guy. I've saved my analysis until now, but just because I figured we would get to this point. They do so many things really well. They are capable of scoring 90 points and beating you that way, or they can lock up on defense. Great interior protection. They just got their center back and missed a couple games, but he's had enough time to kind of get back into the swing of things. But Alex Condon is a great rim protector. Elijah Martin is also a good defender for them as well. And I think what things come down to in March a lot is whether your guards can be the difference. And they have 2 elite guards who can create shots. Walter Clayton is as good of a guard as you'll find in the country, should be an All-American. He's had success in March as well. A couple years ago, he was great for them. And this just feels like a spot where you trust your guards to create those advantages down the stretch. It's harder to feed those post players and thrive off of the bigs just because you have to rely on being able to get them the ball and then them cooking versus if you just trust your guard and they're just able to beat you off the dribble. There's kind of a step taken out of the equation. So teams that are guard dependent, I'm always a bigger fan of in March. So Florida, big fan. I think they take this one.
I like that analysis.
All right. Pushing through my Gators. We got Duke versus Bama. This is specifically the matchup I have in my bracket. I just think if your issue is your ankle or whatever, like a high tempo team is not ideal. So I personally am looking to push through Bama as a bit of a shocker to people. But I would not be surprised if I'm just completely wrong here. So what side are you guys on? Are we pushing Duke through or are we pushing Bama?
I'm Team Duke.
Yeah, same. I think the flag injury 2 weeks down the road when this game would actually be played could probably be getting to a spot where he's fine or is at least just comfortable playing on it because he's had 2 weeks to kind of figure out what works, what doesn't, pain control, that kind of thing. So, and also even if he's not at his best, I think their ceiling is just higher than anyone in the country's right now. So I'm going to ride the hot hand there.
I like it. All right, Gonzaga, Tennessee. We need some spice. Or do we?
I'm going to take Tennessee. I think the spice getting Gonzaga to this point is spicy enough in itself. I think Tennessee is the real deal this year. And, I think they're built for March. You've seen a lot of guys on their roster go into March with big expectations the last few years. They've had a good chance every year. A few new transfers, obviously, that haven't experienced March like this, but I think Tennessee gets the job done here and finally punch a ticket to the Final Four.
Yeah, no complaints there. I also have Tennessee going through.
All right, Tennessee it is. All right, our Final Four, Auburn versus Florida. What side are we leaning there?
Florida's played Auburn great this season. They beat them at least once. The guards are the X factor. Auburn thrives through Janai Broom, who's great, and I'm not worried about his production, but it can be a little hard, like I said, to get those bigs active, especially with kind of the fast hands of the Florida perimeter. And you have Alex Condon, who's going to be sitting in the paint, great rim protector, and is part of the reason why Florida was able to beat Auburn in the past, just because you have that anchor of the defense you can rely on. One thing I will say is Florida really struggles free throw shooting, which is not ideal in March. You could see some kind of swings at the end of games. Like, things are always live at the end of game because they have a miss in them from the free throw line for sure. So that is a little worrying. I'm open to your takes, but I would lean Florida just because I have liked them most of the season and I trust the guards. But this is pretty 50-50.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to be convinced by your analysis on the Florida side of things if this is, in fact, the Final Four matchup on that side of the bracket. I do have Auburn, for what it's worth, as like my championship winner. Been really impressed by them all season. But like I said, I like your analysis on Florida. I could see them winning in this matchup if they can, keep thetheir struggles from the line at bay.
So, Jackson, are we pushing through Auburn? Because that's the side I'm going to lean with.
I got to push Auburn. Yeah,
that's fun.
All right. Yeah, I mean, the thing that, like, you can't, as soon as you talk about free throws, I'm just like, that's what's going to kill them. Like, if not,
and it's usually like when you know what the problem is, that ends up being the problem down the stretch. Like, that's like the kind of thing that's in the back of your mind. Like, I'm sure those guys have it in their head. Like, we've struggled from the free throw line. You get into some tight game situations, and those kind of are the things that end up coming back to bite you. So, yeah. I don't disagree.
All right, so it looks like we're probably headed pretty chalky here, but Duke, Tennessee. Are we pushing through Duke, or are we going Tennessee, or what are we doing?
I don't know. I feel like we've had some hesitancies with Duke in the last few rounds, at least, but I mean, they are just kind of the class of the country. They've been unreal as of late, and kind of throughout the whole season. They've rarely ever been like actually down in a game to the point where you just aren't like they've lost 2 or 3 games by 1 point. Cooper Flagg slipped on 2 of those games in late game situations, which just kind of fluky things. The one thing I will say is their conference situation has allowed them to blow out most of the teams they've played. They haven't played a ton of close games, and when they have, those have been the games they've really struggled in. They have like 3 1 or 2 point losses. So they haven't been great down the stretch in those tight games, which is kind of a product of the conference they play in and not having that kind of experience. So I think Tennessee could give them a good run if this is a close game. They've been in those environments more often, have played the better competition. I'm down to take Tennessee, but I'm open to hearing where your guys' head's at.
I'm also team Tennessee, just because – I mean, mainly, I probably shouldn't be thinking about this as like my own bracket, but I'm also like, I'm thinking about sending Wisco through over Duke on that side of things. And it's like, I feel like that's kind of a fun spot to take, especially if you're actually worried about the Cooper Flagg injury. Like Grant said, they've slipped a few times when he hasn't been there to produce for them late in games. So I'll also go Tennessee with you here.
I'm a believer in Gordon Palm, and Gordon Palm hates Tennessee. So we're rocking with Duke on this one. Just because I also look at it, it's just like, I remember kind of having the same thought of like UConn, either last year's team or 2 years ago. One of them was like supposed to be like metrically like insane, and they were just good regardless.
Last year's, yeah. They're both, both Ken Palm darlings. But for what it's worth, based on kind of the metrics you've seen of like 98% of champions have had a top 21 offense and a top 31 defense, according to Ken Palm. There's only 8 teams that fit that situation, and they're Houston, Tennessee, Duke, Gonzaga, Iowa State, Florida, Auburn, and Wisconsin. So all 4 of the teams we have in the Final Four here are teams that fit those criteria. Gonzaga being the only weird one. I'm down for that little shout you just threw in there, but
just to add a little extra spice.
I think a Duke Auburn final is what everyone wants to see, so I'm down to throw that in there. But Yeah, we are kind of sticking with some of the metrics you see get thrown around.
Well, let's say it's not Tennessee, right? And let's play it out. Would you take Gonzaga over Duke? Because I do think they could be a fun, weird team.
No, I think I would rather take Tennessee over Duke than I would Gonzaga, but you never know.
Okay. Well, it sounds like regardless, we're going with Duke here. Are we fading Duke in the final, though, with Auburn?
Yeah, I like Auburn.
Same.
All right. Auburn gets the dub.
I think that's when that kind of close game situation is kind of comes into play a little bit, and you see Duke playing a little bit on edge. So,
all right. Grant, give me a number 1 through 5. Actually, 1 through 10.
8.
Jackson, 1 through 5.
2.
All right. 128.
Little grit and grind.
Yeah.
Prime Zach Randolph ball. Respect.
Nice.
I like that.
I
filled out one bracket so far, and Florida was my winner. But I think it's hard for me to conceive a world where one of Auburn, Florida, or Duke doesn't win it. And I feel like there's going to be some trendy shouts and some fun stories along the way, but I would be shocked if one of those 3 doesn't win it at the end.
So from what I, as a casual here, kind of took in is I think I honestly want to be a little bit more interested in Louisville. I don't think I've given them potentially enough respect. I like the UNC shot for me still. I honestly still think I'm taking Bryant. Just think they're such a weird variable, and I've seen a few people I think are very sharp, interested in them as well. So I'm like, okay, maybe there is something weird there. And one of these, so it's I think Jackson or I is going to be right ultimately. In terms of one of these 2 seeds messing up. Question is, it'll probably end up being one of these 2 somehow.
Yeah.
I will say the teams that have Alabama is more at risk to lose early just because of the way they play. They can go cold and then they just don't have much of a backup plan. Michigan State, I trust to kind of just play their brand of basketball and grind out a win if they have to. And then if you scroll down, Tennessee just has a good defense and good offense. I trust them to be able to win either kind of game. And then St. John's also lost potential just for the flip reason Alabama was. Their defense is great, but the offense can dry up. So I would say those 2 are probably at the most risk of losing in the second round. But, I mean, you never know. I think New Mexico could be the best team any of them have to play. So, yeah, it just depends on how you read it. But that was a fun first attempt at this. I think we'll probably run through another one as the week goes on. But if you made it to this point, let us know your favorite upset prediction in the comments, and we'll get back to you and kind of figure this one all out. We're all in the same boat here. No matter how prepared you are, you're never prepared enough to go through a bracket like this. So,
yeah, and just know we're going to get plenty of things wrong here. It's just the reality of it. Didn't you say which team had the great free throw shooter? Was it Texas Tech?
Gonzaga has the 95% shooter, but okay. Wisconsin's the best free throw shooting team in the country for what it's worth.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, if you are somehow here at this point, subscribe if you haven't already. You clearly enjoy what we're talking about, or at least the way we're going about it, or you find Grant's particular information very valuable. In which case, you should also subscribe because Grant's on here giving you insights every single week. And believe it or not, Jackson knows more than both of us when it comes to USC. I continue to be a casual there, so you can also fade me and make profit. Plenty of ways to go about it. And if you haven't heard about the app PredictionStrike, give it a try. We got a great promo code going on right now where you deposit $10 to get $200 in Sparks Cash. And there is plenty of content out there for you to discover on that. And if you want to talk to people in the community that understand Sparks and want to explain it to you better, go check out the Discord, which is also available in our link in the bio. Or Jackson can also send you some free shares, and well, you can chat to some people and give you some honest feedback and tell you why I don't know ball.
And for a limited time, if you join the Discord, you can enter our March Madness bracket to win one of these beautiful devices behind me, a giant PredictionStrike neon light. So make sure to join our bracket challenge in the PredictionStrike Army Discord.
Awesome. Well, with that said, that's been myself, Jackson, and Grant. We'll talk to you guys later. Subscribe if you haven't already. Use those special promo codes. Give us a 5-star rating on the App Store. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace now.